Hello, 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 and welcome to My Empty Hands, a podcast about Kempo and the martial arts and people's journeys in them. I am Reggie Darden, and today I have a great guest with me, Roger Grimes, and yeah, we're gonna just kind of jump in and talk some Kempo and whatever else happens to come our way. I usually start things off by just giving a kind of brief rundown of my background. So I started in Kempo, in Chinese Kempo, back in the early to mid 90s in a school in Southern California. I trained for, going back a little bit before that. I've always been a big fan of the martial arts. Watching all the martial arts movies, the Black Belt Theater and Kung Fu Theater back in the day, and everything. And when I got to see Jeff Speakman's The Perfect Weapon, I was just instantly hooked, and so that led me to finding this Kempo school. I started training and trained for about 2-3 years. Got almost to my third brown when I left for the army. While I was in the army, I got a chance to do some taekwondo and some hapkido and some boxing, and it still kept my love for Kempo, even though I wasn't training in a school at the time. Once I got out of the military, I then got involved in capoeira, and been doing capoeira for coming up on 17 years now, and just really enjoying that training and enjoying that part of the journey. But I re found my love for Kempo, and finally found a school that suited what I was looking for. And this school that I'm currently at now is a EPAC school, American at Parker American Kempo. So it was a shock for me, a little change for me, in that the curriculum was different, and kind of the things I thought I knew, I realized quickly realized that I didn't know as well as I thought. And so just been enjoying that. I had to start over as a white belt again, which I was a little bummed about at first, but I'm glad that it worked out that way, because now I feel I've learned so much more working my way back up to green belt, that I'd learned so much by the time I was an orange belt, that I think I really ever learned while I was training before. So yeah, now I'm just got a much different perspective, and just learning a lot, so enjoying that. And also recently I've started the instructors program at my school. So getting into the teaching side is really really exciting, really eye opening. Although I did teach capoeira for many years, the teaching of Kempo is new to me. So we'll probably talk about that as we go along here. But yeah, that's kind of my brief rundown of my history, and that's a story that I'm sticking to for now. And so now I will turn it on to our esteemed guest, and yeah, just tell us how Kempo found you, how you got started, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, thank you, Reggie. Much like you, I grew up on Kung Fu Theater. Here in Cleveland, there was a channel 61, and they used to have that every Saturday morning. My dad and I used to watch that. We would watch other just martial art movies through the years. I always wanted to do it. My parents didn't have the money to do it, but once I started working, I ended up doing it. My uncle was a black belt at Tracy's Karate. That's how I found it into Kempo. It was in the family. So my uncle would pick me up. The interesting thing about this is my uncle would pick me up at this one location because he didn't have much time from his real job to teaching martial arts. He says, if you want to do this, I'll pick you up here. And I would walk probably 3 to 5 miles to go meet him from where I was working at. And here in Cleveland, it gets pretty cold and pretty snowy. That rain, snow, whatever it was, I made my way up there. So we used to do that, and I just loved it. It's just a great thing. It changed my life. I was a pretty shy person, and martial arts really helped me a lot. Now you see me on YouTube, and I've been teaching martial arts for a very long time now. But that was in 1992 is when I started doing it. I was 17. And then when that school closed, I looked for another school that was closer to my work. And I found one, and that is with my current instructor right now, Grandmaster Mark Miller. He's had his school open for, right now, it's been close to 60 years, 50 to 60 years in between there. And I came to him, it was about 93, 94. And I started teaching shortly after that. I was a green belt, and that's when I got the bug. I was one of those guys that actually did practice on my time off. You in this now, you're starting to teach, and a lot of people don't practice on their time off. But I think part of the love of wanting to do the martial arts, I wanted to be good at it. So I was like, and also I paid for it myself. Did I want to lose what I was learning? No, I wanted to practice. And with the Tracy's karate, it is similar to Ed Parker's American Kempo, but there's differences there. As I've been doing this for so long, I realize a lot of the Tracy stuff is what Ed Parker was teaching the Tracy brothers. So now we're missing certain things that Ed Parker evolved to. That doesn't mean, it's lesser, but we still got it. For instance, there's things I didn't know about, but we were doing it. When we start going into, I look at Ed Parker a little deeper. Ed Parker has his theories, like backup mass. We never taught it as backup mass. Didn't know nothing about that because that wasn't taught to Al Tracy and his brothers, but the theory of the movement was. So same thing. But when Ed Parker put a term to it, a terminology to it, it really puts it in perspective in my eyes. It helps you remember it more. It makes it more, thought process of going, okay, this is it. Instead of just going and moving. Instead of saying, hey, just throw your body weight into it. Now, here's a little theory name. And then people start thinking about that a little bit more. And just like when we're teaching, we say, get your cover hand up. A lot of people still don't. They're like, cover hand? What are you talking about, cover hand? I just like, get in a fighting stance. They get in the fighting stance. I said, well, that's your cover hand. Now, here we go. Let's go to the technique Chinese sword. You're going to step in, block, but get your fighting stance up as you're doing it. So that's why I coined the phrase active fighting stance. So now you're not just going into a technique, you're active fighting stance. And then they start thinking about it, and then like, oh, all of a sudden I notice students are having their hand up more. So then when I thought about the backup mass, I thought about it, you're really backing up your strike with your body mass, giving you more power. We were doing that before, but now that you put it in terminologies, it really helps.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
really
no,
does
I,
help.
I agree. That was, much like you, a lot of the things that, a lot of the principles and terminologies and things that evolved in Kempo. We were doing it at the original school that I started at, but it just wasn't maybe laid out in specific terms and so yeah, a lot I can definitely see, and as I'm learning the techniques and things that are similar or the same, or kind of what I call the Kempo all-star techniques, the techniques that seem to be in versions of in all of the versions of Kempo, your five swords, your thundering hammers, things like that. I see the that kind of early DNA of Kempo, and it's nice to be able to kind of compare and contrast and see how things have changed and evolved and kind of go from there. I like that you mentioned that you were really into training outside of class as well. I know my current school, it's brought up a lot of times, especially to the kids, but the adults are guilty of it too. It's like you're only in class for so many hours a week, and it's like you gotta start working on this stuff, outside of class too. Just coming in, especially as you start moving up the ranks, there's a lot of things to remember and ingrain and learn in that time. So yeah, that's definitely something I think a lot more of us uh, are guilty of than we want to admit. So um,
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I realized though is practice does not make perfect.
yeah,
It makes better, but if you're practicing it wrong, does it really make better?
exactly,
It
yeah,
doesn't. But this is where I talk about to the students is slow is fast, fast is slow. And they look at me like deer in the headlights, like, what are you talking about? But if you go slower, you will learn it faster because you'll learn better technique. You will learn the steps of doing it. Like I'm launching a series on YouTube called Kicking 101. Basically, what I'm doing is drills and breaking down steps and going slower and not having to be showing off with it. But these are the things that actually improved my kicking is by breaking it down. But then fast is slow because if we go fast, a lot of times we start skipping steps. We learn it slower and we learn it sloppy. I've been guilty of this myself. This is where wisdom comes in after decades of doing this. I've been teaching it for a very long time, and even at this point, I look at some of my old videos. I'm like, yeah, why did I teach it like that? Because I didn't know any better. As we get seasoned, you start understanding more. My instructor, Grandmaster Mark Miller, told me that he said that the young or the old sensei has to be careful what he teaches the young student because one day the young student will be the old sensei. Now, over 30 years down the line here, I'm starting to get that. I started to really get what he was talking about. And there's a lot of wisdom in the martial arts besides just saying this is going to work here in a fight or this self-defense. There's a lot of just life principles that happen in the martial arts. And that's why I share a lot of that with my YouTube channel. I'll start sharing different things. It's funny when you have a YouTube channel as long as I have, it's like what content you're doing. You know, you could structure so much and then, okay, I'm done with that series.
hmm
Now what do I talk about? So there's life lessons that you could talk about through the martial arts.
yeah,
Just the discipline section is just amazing. I wasn't a person that would be accomplishing much, and then I get into martial arts, and then I realized how to goal set and just have perseverance and stick with something, even if it was difficult. And it's just an amazing journey. It's been awesome. I've been competing since 1992. So pretty much right out of the gate, as soon as I got my yellow belt, I ended up competing. Point fighting, it's a great thing to have, but it also creates bad habits. Reggie, have you ever done point fighting in your years?
I have not. I've only been in about a handful of tournaments. I spectated a lot, but actually competing not that many. I kept getting disqualified too many times. Much like many kempo person, especially at kind of open tournaments. A lot of the kind of fighting and conditioning that we do just doesn't seem to fly in a lot of tournaments. So Yeah, I didn't really get the bug for that. I have kind of toyed with the idea of getting back into to do like forms and weapons and stuff, because I didn't do that when I competed. It was just the point sparring. So I've thought about maybe trying that. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, because I have a much older body than than I did when I started. So, but yeah, I definitely see where you can get kind of bad habits, at least in the idea of uh, point fighting versus a street self defense sort of scenario. But I do think that competing and getting in that spot is a valuable piece of the training. I don't think I don't think it needs to be required, but I do think everyone should at least experience it. To one, kind of get that experience. You get that different adrenaline going when you're working with this other person, and you're getting that contact. And yeah, you're not blasting them with a kick or a punch or something, but there's a very different element to being in the ring with somebody versus just working on things inside of class. So I think that yeah, everyone should at least try it. And if it's for you, then go for it, and go to all the different tournaments and stuff like that. And if it's not, then that's fine. Everybody has their own thing that works for them. So I would say try it, and see if you like it. But
Yeah. The fighting and the point fighting, it does create some bad habits of like for self-defense reasons. One, a lot of times you'll drop your hands more just to bait someone to come at you so you can kick them in the rib. And then if you get hit, they say break anyhow. But now in full contact, sometimes it could be dire, that could be it. That's the make it break it moment. But I have learned a lot of great things from point fighting. And then when I did the cage fighting, that gave me new lessons. So I learned a whole lot from that. So now the direction I've started going after cage fighting, and then going back to point fighting, is I take the self-defense techniques out of the Tracy system, and I go look at those. I don't just train them as techniques. I train them to look for the fighting components in it. I mean, let's face it, a lot of Kempo techniques aren't useful in a fight just the way it is, because it's training skill sets. That's all it is. It's a sequence of skills, just different orders, different sequences of skills. So I started breaking that down to another level. Now, what can I use for point fighting? How can I adapt this to MMA? How can I adapt this to kickboxing? How can I just use this for plain out self-defense? And that's where I've been gearing at. I've shared a little bit of that on YouTube, and it's just an amazing journey. I just have a great time with it. And you mentioned kata, or as Parker would call it, forms. Someone told me before when I call it kata, he said, well, Mr. Parker never had a kata. I get it. Yes, it called it forms. That was from the Chinese Kempo part, is the forms. Kata is the Japanese part. So I do still call it kata. I still call it forms. And then every now and then, to me, I'm not that much of a stickler on it. I just, okay, what is it? Long form 1. Okay, cool. Which in instance, I took long form 1 and I did it more like a Shodan style. And I took it to one of our local tournaments and took first place in black belt with long form 1. You know how hard that is?
yeah,
I had to do a lot of hard
yeah,
work.
that's one of the things that also kind of soured me on the tournament, at least going into like the open tournaments, is that uh, kind of depending on the makeup of the judges, if there's a lot of kind of the hard stylists judges, then if you're doing something like book set, they're not used to seeing that sort of form, and so they're not interested, and they're not gonna give you a good score. But if there's more soft stylists, more kung fu type stylists, then they would tend to score those kind of better. And then also vice versa, if you do something like Long One and you've got a bunch of soft stylists, they're like, yeah, that's pretty boring. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that kind of soured me on it. But I like I mentioned, I still want to try it just because book set, Tiger and Crane are some of my favorite forms, and I'd like to at least try
Oh,
it
they're
and
great
and
forms.
say oh well, at least I tried it. If I place or not, that's neither here nor there to me. But I just kind of want to get the experience of it. So it may happen, it may not. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd say do it.
Very nice. Very nice.
Absolutely. It's just actually put something in you. Two things have made me a better martial artist. One is competition. Two is YouTube. Competition, it's because I'm out there trying to get a prize. I'm trying to, now I look at other guys who are winning. I was like, well, okay, I can improve on that. I can improve on that. I have a pretty good record when it comes to the competitions on the point fighting and the katas and weapons. My first two tournaments, I didn't win anything. My third tournament, I won something. I didn't win first place yet, but I was getting second or third. And then I started to where I didn't lose. I mean, I came out with trophies at every single tournament until I got to brown belt. Then I went to a huge tournament in Kentucky, the Bluegrass. And that one, there were so many people in the fighting division. I won like 3 or 4 fights, lost one fight, I was eliminated. No trophy, nothing. I was like, wow, this is a big tournament. And then when it came to the forms, I was outclassed on those. These guys had these fancy forms, and that's a whole nother beast when you go to some of those national tournaments like that,
Mm-hmm.
Bluegrass Nationals or the huge tournaments. That's a whole nother beast, is where they're doing flips and things like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm doing Tracy's katas,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, okay. But after that, I've come out with a medal or trophy at every other tournament after that.
Very nice.
But I didn't really start getting consistent at winning first place until I was like black belt. Then I started getting consistent with getting first
Mm-hmm.
place.
Takes time to build
So
up to
I
that.
had this drive. Yeah. Well, I had this drive to do better because my first tournament as a black belt, I was doing pretty good. I would win first place in katas all the time at brown belt, but fighting, it was the hardest part for me. So then I got to the first tournament as a black belt, and it was right by my house. And I went against a fourth degree black belt in Kempo. I did not score once. And he just had his back kind of turned a little bit, and I had no target except for his head. Every time I go for his head, I get hit in the body. Second tournament, I went to Chicago. And I went there, and Al Tracy was there. Grandmaster Al Tracy was there as a guest judge. And I won first place for kata there. And I think I got second or third for fighting. I was okay. Or no, I didn't. I don't even think I placed for first or on fighting on that one. I know I got whooped pretty quick. Yeah, I got whooped pretty quick by a guy who's black belt longer than I was training.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did get one score on it, and that's where one of the sparring techniques that I created a name for. I call it the shield. Because now I just lunged forward with my leg up, my arm up, is like a shield, and then as they jump for a moment, I watched their movement. I dropped down and I hit him. That was the only time I got a score on that guy. But after that, I started going to other tournaments that would only be required 3 points to win instead of 5. And then they had 2 points for kicks. So there was a urgency to get your score. That's where I really started sharpening the saw there. I had to get better at what I was doing. I'm not facing just any old people now. I'm facing some black belts, some good ones too. And that's where I got the taste to really fight, is at black belt. I always enjoyed it, but black belt was like, oh, okay. And we get to hit a little harder in the tournaments. I was like, I'm good with that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
So kind of
But yeah, it's been an awesome journey.
to kind of take it back a little bit, so you mentioned that you did some cage fighting. Do you have a preference between cage fighting, MMA stuff, and point fighting, or is it?
My body says point fighting, but for a piece of me, just kind of likes to banging it out and just getting intense with it. And I got to the point now where I'm training with some of the other black belts now that haven't done the cage fighting, and then we just do continuous sparring. And then I got this piece of me that's still in the cage where I'm just hungry now. I'm getting in there, I'm crowding them, and I really like to fight close. A lot of people don't want to fight me close because I have the ability to still kick you in the body or the head from being toe to toe with you. It's easier when we're throwing punches and I'm able to put my foot on your head. And that's kind of just exciting to me. That part I like. I just don't want to get abused no more. I'm actually 49 now, and I don't want to get abused no more. But I am training harder than I was a few years ago, just for the sake of conditioning my body so I can still be able to do this stuff. But there's no desire to go back in the cage for me. I still do point fighting at our tournament, the Tracy's tournament that we run twice a year. That's the only tournament I compete at anymore. I do that for a reason of showing the students what a high level black belt can do. And to show them, I just wanted to inspire them to work harder. And then when I do seminars to some of the other schools, I'll teach them, I'll talk to them about you need to train harder. If you want to have this level of expertise, you can't halfway do that. You need to put some effort into it. But I did the cage fighting, believe it or not because I wanted to do it. I had students who wanted to get in there. So I put one student in there. He got beat up. I was like, oh, I'm there in the corner. I'm like, this is another beast. So naturally, I was like, I need to get in there. Not to just show off or anything or do it. It was to learn. I was only going to do one fight. And what happened? I lost. I was like, oh, okay. But here's the thing is, I wrote a book on it too called Lessons from the Cage. And that's life lessons I learned. But basically, I realized that, the one chapter is called Burnt by Anticipation. That's talking about how I anticipated so much before I got in there. The promoters was like, your fight's next. I was like, all right, so I start warming up. Well, it went 3 rounds. So it's like a half hour later, by the time I got in there, I was still warming up. Well, that's not warm up. That's a workout. So I worked out before the fight. Well, that was a mistake. Here's where it hurt me. Is when we got in there, by the time they slowed you down and, checking for everything that you need, checking your wraps and everything, and make sure you're good to go. I got in there. The ref goes, ready, fight. Adrenaline dump. Well, that got in my headspace. And the kid that I fought, I told the promoter, give me someone good. I didn't want a cakewalk. I wanted something that would challenge me so I could actually learn. Well, the kid ground and pounded me. He was younger than me, and he got down. I mean, ground and
Mhm.
pounded me. I was like, oh, okay. So instead of quitting, I got into another fight, a second fight. I went 3 rounds with that fight. It was another black belt, and I lost by split decision. I was like, well, I need to get in there again.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I finally got in there and won. But here's the cool thing about it. I was so calm. By this point, because the second fight, I took the trauma of the first fight in. So I burnt out all my energy and we went 3 rounds. And he was gassed too. I'm going to share this with you and everyone's listening here, is I think this is hilarious. Is in between the second and third round, I'm dead tired. I'm hyperventilating. I'm hunched over. My uncle, who taught me karate first, he was in my corner. He goes, "You're hyperventilating." I'm like, "I know." And I looked across the cage. My opponent was hunched over worse than I was. So I did the natural thing. I just stood up like I was nothing wrong with me. And when he made eye contact with me, I gave him a big smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we ended up doing the third round, and I think that helped carry me through it, even though I was done. And I don't know how he felt when I smiled
Mhm.
at him, but yeah, I realized I wasn't alone in this. He's suffering too. I'm tired. He's dog tired. But then the third fight, I went out there real calm. I was like, I'm just going to do my thing. But here's the awesome thing about it. I started doing this after my first fight. I did for my next 2 fights. Before the fight, see, I'm a Christian, and I said, how can I honor God in the MMA, in this? And I said, well, let me read the Bible and pray before I get in there. That was my warm up. So I went out there calm and calm spirited and just went and did it. But now, once I was in there, I didn't get all excited like I did on the second fight. I didn't feel I needed to rush things. I ended up choking the guy in 1 minute and 21 seconds because I did do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for a few years too. I didn't rank for that. I didn't have an instructor that was ranking. I just had a friend of mine that was a blue belt doing it, and he taught me a lot of stuff he knew.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I like that, you were willing to get out there and do that and not just, tell your students like, oh, you if you want to do that, just go and do it and I'll kind of sit back on the side. Like decided to get in there and don't ask anyone to do anything that you're not willing to do yourself. So yeah, I really like that attitude and that perspective. So to jump over to your YouTube channel, now that I'm doing this podcasting thing, it's a big deal to put yourself out there. And so what was the reasoning behind starting the YouTube channel and putting yourself out there and putting the different content and actually for those that may not be familiar with it, like what kind of things are on the channel that they can check out.
Because originally I started because when I opened up my own Tracy's Karate in 2002, I was doing that for a couple years. I think it was about 2004, 2005 is when I started the YouTube channel. I seen how YouTube was starting to get blown up a little bit. I was like, okay, maybe I could promote the school with that. Yeah, I decided I liked it. It was fun to do, making these videos. And I would have random videos. If you watch some of my older videos, it would be some different training, some of the MMA stuff, because we were just working on that, some jujitsu, some kempo stuff. And then I started putting out, here's what really launched my channel, I believe, is I started doing instructional videos. So I started doing it. One of the videos, it's still my most popular video. It's almost 2 million views right now. And it's one of my oldest ones. It's called lessons for karate, or I mean, yeah, it was, I forget what I named it, but yeah, lesson for karate, or karate for beginners. I'm sorry,
No
I
problem.
just had a
No problem.
mind melt. Karate for beginners, lesson one. That thing is old. It's not my best teaching even, but that thing still gets views to this day because of that. And then I would just start doing a few more. And then years later, I decided to do a new series called Kempo for Beginners. Then I did Kempo for Intermediate, Kempo for Advanced, Kempo for Black Belt. I did that series. That one took me a couple years to do that series. And that was a fun series to do. And I think I did a better job on that one because I was a little more seasoned with YouTube. It was easier to speak on camera. It's weird to speak on camera to yourself. You're in an empty room by yourself speaking to a camera. That was one of the weirdest things about doing YouTube for me when I started doing instructional videos. But to answer your question about what else is on that channel, I have some of my tournament videos on there. I have some of my cage fighting videos on there. I have just me doing weapons or forms. It's just a bunch of different things that we do on there. I've did some things where, I'll try out a form that I learned. I did a Taekwondo form. I've never done Taekwondo. I did a Taekwondo form that I picked up on watching YouTube. And I was like, okay, let me see if I can get it down and put it on YouTube. And I did, and I let people know this. One of the things is, I am not the best martial artist in the industry, and I know that. But here's the thing is, I'm honest. I let you know who I am really, and my ability speaks for itself. But that's why I did the YouTube, is to promote the school originally, and then I fell in love doing it.
Very nice.
But watching YouTube, remember I said earlier, I said YouTube made me better martial artist. See, I never finished
Mhm.
that earlier. I think this is where I'm weaving in here now and bringing it back to the point. But YouTube made me better because I could see myself on screen when I'm editing the videos or I'll watch it. I'm like, okay, I could be better at that. I noticed a lot of times I would just kind of throwing the point out and then I'd throw things sloppy and didn't think about it. When we're teaching, we don't always focus on every aspect of the move. We're trying to focus on what our point is, trying to come across to the student. But as you get to know it, then we start, unpacking the whole technique. But on video, you can see everything. See, when I'm teaching a student, they could see the point that I'm, putting out. Okay, here it is. Move your arm like this. Well, my stance is bad. Okay, cool. I'm not being lazy, but when you teach class after class after class, well, that becomes very tiring at the end of the day if you go into perfect stance every time. But truthfully, is there a perfect stance?
Gotcha.
There's not.
Yeah, no, I
Go
can
ahead.
definitely relate. As doing this. It's why this podcast is audio only for now. I have a hard time watching myself, and I can definitely relate to being out there, and you're recording something, and it's like, oh, this, when you play it back, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm missing this thing, and I did that wrong, or said that wrong, or whatever. But that's part of the growth. Just we learn more from our mistakes than we do getting it the first time. So yeah, that's a
Absolutely.
big thing to be able to do that, and to be able to kind of shake off that, oh well, I don't want to see myself, but I want to get these things out there. So yeah, I commend you for doing that, and continuing that. So to get into, as we kind of talked about earlier before we recorded, I've started in the teaching side, And so I'm curious, can you talk about one kind of your early experiences teaching, and then any kind of tips and advice for someone like myself that is just starting to get into teaching. What kind of advice or tips that you'd want to give on that?
All right, well, I'm glad you asked me that. That's one thing I find, that I'm actually a better instructor than a martial artist. Some people say I'm a really good martial artist. Some people say I'm terrible. That's the eye of the beholder. But when it comes down to teaching, it's basically just showing what you know, but you have to connect with the student. When I first began to teach, it was nerve-wracking because you have to show this technique. It has to be just right. Well, first off, sometimes when we start teaching, we're teaching the lower students. It doesn't have to be just right yet, right? You can only be where you are. Think about that. So teaching is a higher level of practice. Now, you don't want to be practicing too much on people who are paying you to teach them. So basically give them a good lesson, but instead of focus so hard on the things that you question, really let the things that you know and you're confident on, let that shine. And then say, hey, let's try this out. Or if just listen to some of the questions sometimes the students may ask. And here's a tip for instructors. You might not realize or think about that answer. You don't have to give them an answer on that. You can say, well, let's find out. Because first off, everyone's different. You could have a move that you're amazing at, and I'm not. But I have a move that I'm amazing at, and you're not. We are all our own body type. Mr. Miller, my instructor, he told me sometimes we have to put the book down and teach the martial arts. Man, that changed everything for me. That changed the way I teach. I said, yes, sir. I throw my punches better than I did because I think about it now. I'm like, let me teach the martial arts. Okay, so now if I could throw a better punch, when we get to technique, I got a better punch. All right, it was better kicking. But here's the thing is, just be calm, teach the movement as you know it, take your time with it. You can even quiz the student. What do you think about this move? How do you think this would work? And now you can play with it. But you have to have like a student you could trust, because if you're working hand to hand with the person, sometimes you get bopped pretty good. I got the elbow under the chin doing a technique that we call crash of the eagle. Come down, push my arm down, pop. That one's smarts, man. I got hit in the back of the head. I felt that one from a 12-year-old kid. We were doing one with the rolling back fist, hit me in the back of the head. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not good. But that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful on that aspect. But the only way really for you to grow as an instructor is grow as a martial artist, is being an instructor. You see, it's all hand to hand. It works together. It's a higher level of practice, but you need to do it hands on.
Yeah.
See, a lot of the Kempo guys I notice don't do as much hands on as they used to, especially in the Tracy system. A lot of them are doing air Kempo, as I call it. We need to have hands on, man. That's going to make it better. That's where you're going to learn the nuances of the technique.
No, I agree wholeheartedly on that. That was definitely a eye-opening experience when I started at my current school. As at my original school, yeah, we did work on each other from time to time, but it was definitely not as regular as in my current school. And yeah, one of the things, it's to feel is to believe. And yeah, I'm definitely a believer. Just even before doing the instructing, you get popped a few times when we're doing technique lines, or the head instructors demonstrating something, and you get to be the lucky one that they want to demonstrate it on. But yeah, you definitely get a greater understanding of what it is that you're doing right and doing wrong when you get to feel it, and when you get to apply it to somebody else. So yeah, that's really really good good outlook on that. So to move to our lightning round here. So as we close in on at the end of our time here, I got a few little questions to kind of throw at you. And so the first one being, do you have a favorite technique?
No, I don't. I have a favorite series of movements, but I do love the brush block in one way. So there's darkness or different techniques like that. That's one of my favorites. But Seven Swords is a grand favorite on that. But yeah, not really. I just love movement. It's too many good ones in the Tracy system that I know. I'm not that well versed in the
Yeah.
EPAC system, but the Tracy system, that's my thing, and there's way too many awesome moves to have
Yeah,
just
no,
one.
I agree. I agree. So the next question, do you have a favorite form or set?
Favorite form or set? That goes down to a couple. I did fall in love with long form one since I competed with it. I was like, I really wanted to do that. Long form four was one of my favorites for a long time. But I tell you that Tiger and Crane was amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my
I
favorites.
know a lot of people split it, but that's just an amazing form. And do you know the history of Tiger and Crane is very old, and it's never the same. If you look up Hung Gar, Tiger and Crane, and you get a couple of videos from different people, it's not all going to be the same. The Tiger and Crane that the Tracy's Karate teaches, I picked up a Hung Gar video, and the Tiger side was really close. The Crane side, I was like, no, unrecognizable. So, but that's one of my favorite forms, Tiger and
Very
Crane.
nice. Yeah, there's a lot of that's one of the, I guess, good things and I guess bad things about YouTube is, there's lots of different videos, and for techniques and forms and things, you get a lot of different interpretations of it, and sometimes you can get confused and these things, and it's a good reference point. But for the boys and girls out there, YouTube is not your teacher. So definitely you can watch those things and enjoy them, and get some things from them, but always seek your instructor for the proper information. So yeah, no, I like that.
I agree with you on
I like
that.
that. Okay, so then our last question there: if there is anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, besides Ed Parker, who would that be?
There's a lot of people that I thought about through the years. I know a lot of people say Bruce Lee,
Yeah, it's a good one.
right? I actually would like to work with Jackie Chan or something just to pick his brain because he's just an interesting guy. And, I know he would be a fun one to work with.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Ed Parker would be a fun one. But you know what? Dave German, I think, would stand out on the top of my mind, who I would actually rather work with than any of them.
Very nice. Very nice.
I know he wasn't as famous as any of them, but he was still pretty well
No,
known.
I'm actually
But I
really
thought it was
glad that you
interesting.
brought him up. And when I started this podcast, and I'm quite surprised by how many times he's come up in the various episodes that I've done. Actually, probably most of the people I've talked to so far, he's come up, and I love that because I say every time, I'm dating myself because We used to seek out the Panther production videos back in the day. And one of the ones that really stuck out to me was one by David German, and it was the Kempo
Yeah,
Jiu-Jitsu
same
connection.
here.
And he was, mixing jiu-jitsu with Kempo techniques, and I just really loved the work that he was doing. One that really kind of stood out to me was adding some wrist locks and arm bars to flashing wings, and I was just it just really, I really connected with that, and saw how Kempo is a really great base for connecting with other arts, and very very seamless, and a good foundation for that. And yeah, I just love those videos, and love the work that he was doing. And yeah, I kind of surprised. I feel like maybe he doesn't get mentioned maybe as much as maybe he should. So with this podcast here, I'll, mention, David German. Look. I'm sure the videos are probably out there on YouTube or something, and they're probably findable. But yeah, definitely look up David German, and his what he's the work that he did. So yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. So,
Yeah, I've got to train with a lot of great martial artists. I've trained with Bart Vale before, Mike Stone,
mhm.
seminars
Yeah.
on those. Bill Wallace, I've been to a couple of his seminars. 77 years old, he kicked me in
Oh
the
yeah.
head. He could still do his splits. That
Yeah.
was
No,
amazing.
I'm part of
And
the
so
club too.
some of the
Yeah.
guys I really wanted to train.
I said I'm part of
What's
the
that?
club too. Yeah, I was in a seminar with him a few months back, and I get
Yeah.
to say that I was not only kicked, punched, but choked by Bill Wallace too. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, pretty happy about that.
Yeah, isn't it fun?
He's amazing. I mean, 78 years old, and he's going into full side splits, and it's like,
Yeah, that
yeah, you
just
tell
blows my
me
mind.
that he did that, and I wouldn't believe it, but I stood there and watched him do it multiple times during the seminar. And he's ready to kick everybody, and mix it up with everybody, and it's like there's no slowing him down, no signs of slowing down there. So age is definitely just a number. So um, yeah, very very inspiring.
That's why I want to work on myself to maintain what I have because I find him as a inspiration on the physical side. And my friend Joe Rebello, as you spoke with already, he was actually a student of Dave German on his Thai system there, and that does like the joint
Mm.
manipulation or the Chin Na he was working on even, which is the Chinese art of joint manipulation. So that's where you got the wrist locks and things like that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right. Well, yes, I thank you so much for being on with me. Now is your time for selfless, shameless promotion. Shameless self promotion. I always mess that up. So now is your time to go ahead and say anything that you like to say, or if you want to promote anything. Now's the time to do it. You have the floor to put out anything you want, and we'll kind of close it out for today.
All right. Well, my YouTube channel, since we spoke about it, is Shodan1197. That's a channel that's been around a very long time, but I also have another channel that I'm bringing up, and that's more of your positive, motivational, and just wisdom I put out there. And that channel is called Better Life 75. You can find it on YouTube by actually Better Life 7515. Or you could just go to my website at www.betterlife75.com and you could find a link to buy my book. When I get my future book I'm writing, you can buy that there too.
Excellent, excellent, and yeah, I will include links on my site as well. So, yeah, we'll definitely get out there and check that out. And so, yeah, I thank you so much for being on, taking the time to chat with me. I like hearing your story and hearing your insight and about your experience. We'll definitely have to do this again at another time. But Yeah, no, thank you, thank you so much for being on, and I can't wait to get this out for everyone to check it out, and we'll be visiting your YouTube and keep an eye on what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time you've given me, and I enjoyed this time with you, and we could do it again maybe sometime in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for listening to My Empty Hands. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. If you didn't enjoy it, please share it with an enemy. If you'd like to be a guest, or if you would like to recommend a guest for the show, please email me at podcast@talkingkempo.com. Thank you.